Okay, so here's the tricky part with tapped pickups. So you can see if I pull the wire through like normal, it's going to contact the other eyelet, and that's not going to work. So what I need to do is get this wire out of the way of that eyelet. So I use a toothpick, and I'm going to hold this wire down where I want it. Give this a little pull to make sure it's taut, or relatively taut. And then I'm going to come in with a dropper, an eyedropper, of Paraloid B72. And just give it a couple drops. And I'm just going to hold it and wait for it to set up. So Paraloid B72 is an acrylic resin. You dissolve it pretty much like shellac. I find it dries a little harder and has more adhesive properties than shellac does. So it works really well for this. So I have my new wire tied around that same eyelet that we just finished. So that's tied around, and I'm going to get ready to wind. But as you can see, we've got another problem. So if I just let this go normally, now the wire's going across where our pushback leads are going to go, and that also is not going to work. So we got to repeat the same thing and get this wire in about the same position that we have the other one. So again, hold it with the toothpick, come in with a drop of the Paraloid, hold it in place. You want to be careful too not to get the Paraloid onto the flat work, or else you have to clean it off, because that's going to screw with your wire going onto the bobbin. Now once both of them are dried and they're in place, you can wrap some wire around by hand just to get it started and to help really secure those areas. And I always tin the leads before tying them on. So I just take my iron, and run it down the wire. So having tinned wire wrapped around the eyelets just guarantees that it's going to have a really solid connection. So I just do this on every single pickup I make. I load up the eyelets first with solder. Then I just get these guys in, heat the back of the eyelet up and push it through. And then I just touch them up with a little flux on the back of the eyelet. And as I do that, I'll run over it. This will make the joint nice and shiny. But I also go over the top of the magnet wire. And that makes a really solid and really strong connection. Let me touch that up and go over the top. And it just makes it look perfect. And it'll really reinforce that magnet wire tied around the fiberboard, which is actually a pretty common area where they break. You can probably even see it from there. It's all nice and shiny against the flat work now because it's saturated with solder, so that'll be really resistant to breaking. Okay, now the moment of truth. I'm going to attach my ground lead, and we'll try the vintage tap first. 2.168 Henrys, that's what we want. Now we test the full coil. And 6.93. That's also what we want. So I prefer testing inductance, but you can test resistance. The main thing we're looking for here is just that the pickup works as it should. If you get any weird readings, it's sorry to say, but you gotta start over again because you probably got a short somewhere.